I've been wanting to put together a build that is optimized for productivity and heavy creative work like 3D rendering, product design, video editing, and probably music production, but in an SFF PC, specifically using this case, the Lian A4H20. This is a super clean case, and I'm surprised that it actually fits modern day hardware components considering that the Dan A4H20 is actually a couple of years old. The main feature in this case is that it's built for a 240mm AIO, meaning that it's specifically designed for liquid cooling. I went with the silver version over the black because, in my opinion, this looks the most aesthetic. This case truly spots a lot of really good design choices, like its vented panels, it's also space optimized at 11 liters and can fit a 3-slot GPU on one side, and on the other side, you have your motherboard and PSU with the 240mm AIO at the top in a true sandwich layout that's common in SFF PC builds. While this case looks really clean and high quality, there is one particular thing that I do not like, and I know that I'm nitpicking here, but I don't see the need for these 4 thumb screws at the back because it's a little weird that you have push pins and thumb screws just to open the panels on this case. I think it looks much cleaner without the thumb screws. But enough about this case, here are the parts that are going into this build, starting with the motherboard. Now this is the Asus ROG Strix Z690i. Yes, this is an Intel build, and this motherboard in my opinion has a really good balance with the amount of IOs stacked behind it. It's also one of those motherboards that have 2 onboard M.2 slots, with both of them supporting fast PCIe 4.0 drives. Truth is, I think this is something you want to look out for if you're building a PC for creative work, because I know that I can quickly use up all of that space on a 1TB SSD drive. So it's really awesome that this motherboard actually provides 2 slots for expansion. As for the SS2 M.2 sticks, I'm going with this 1TB Samsung 980 Pro. For now, I'll only be using one of the M.2 slots, preferably the one at the bottom because it's easier to expand storage later without too much hassle if I keep the one at the top free. Honestly, it would be a pain to have to undo all of this cable management just to install a second SSD stick. For the RAMs, I went with these DDR5 64GB sticks from Kingston Fury with 6,400 megatransfers per second, which I think is perfect for what I'm building this for. While most creative software recommends 32GB as the base capacity, I have learned that 64GB actually performs better, especially when editing multiple 4K timelines. Also, with the addition of AI processing in some creative tools like Adobe Premiere Pro, having more RAM space is better. We are going with the Intel i7-13700K. I'm curious to see how this CPU performs in terms of heat dissipation and its total power draw while working with tools like Blender or Premiere Pro, even though I have enjoyed using the CPU in other builds for gaming. So I'm pretty confident that it can handle games at 4K and still chew through any creative task you throw at it. As you can see on the motherboard, I'll be using the Thermalright CPU contact frame for an even more spread when we apply the thermal paste. Now, in order to test this PC once we're done, I needed to create a mini desk setup for that purpose and hopefully benchmarking PC components sometime in the future. So when FlexiSpot offered to send their E7 premium standing desk, I was excited to try it out. This is a premium desk at 140 by 60 centimeters with their bamboo tabletop. And what I really love about this desk is how high it can go at like 50 centimeters and how low it gets at 25 with little to no wobble. I've also pre-programmed my standing and sitting height preferences. Plus, I have mine on casters because I'm definitely going to be moving this around the studio often. For the CPU cooler, I'm using the Cooler Master Atmos 240 AIO, which I've used previously in a build and I really liked it. Both of the fans that come in this package are 25mm fans with a 37mm thick radiator. These coolers come with an RGB hub, but because I'd like to not battle with cable management too much, I'll be connecting all the fans directly to the motherboard using a fan splitter. Finally, the power supply unit, and this was when I learned my first lesson building in this case. You see, for the PSU, I initially went with the ROG Loki 850 watt Platinum, which is actually an SFX-L power supply unit. Now, this case can fit larger SFX power supply units like these, but I advise using a smaller SFX PSU because it was such a struggle getting this to fit with the tubes of the AIO's radiator really obstructing it. Which is why I switched to the Corsair 1000 watt power supply unit because it's a lot easier to fit in this case without stressing the AIO tubes too much. So let's finish up the rest of the build. This PC case looks so sick, and it's so easy to understand why this case is quite popular in the SFF community. It's such a clean build inside and out with these solid panels that cover the top of the AIO, and then the PSU side panels, which really just hides all of the mess inside this case while leaving some room for airflow. I particularly love this thick cover here to hide the AIO's radiator, which makes it look so clean. Here's what it looks like scrubbing through this 4K timeline I prepared in Premiere Pro while staying relatively quiet. So this is pretty much sort of like what a video editing project for YouTube looks like. Let's also see how quickly it can render this in Blender. Honestly, I think that this is an amazing build for anyone who's primarily looking to build a PC for their creative work and still enjoys all kinds of games as well at 4K. That being said, I'll catch you in the next video.